Righto, here we are again. It's the 28th of March 2026. We've got a show going here and we still don't know what to call it. We've got a wonderful panel here who have introduced themselves a couple of times already. So I'll introduce them today. So we've got Sue Morland. Hold your hand up there. Oh, Suzanne, they can see your name there. That's Sue Morland. She's someplace in Victoria because I can't remember what assembly she's on. And she's very well schooled in the stuff that we talk about and a valuable member here. And her favourite question is always why? Why is it like that? Wouldn't want to be married to her, but it's a very good question. And then we've got Ray. He's somewhere in Western Australia. When I visited him recently, he was in Perth in Western Australia. Ray's got a wealth of knowledge about ancient history and stuff like that, and he really wants to share it, but it could be a bit controversial. But we'll get through that. We'll get through that. We'll find a way to share that. Then we've got Sarah. Hello, Sarah. She's also somewhere in Victoria. Sarah's well known on Terra Australis states assemblies, has been known to chuck a tandy every now and again in the middle of a meeting. But, you know, it's that passion. We need that kind of passion to get shit done. That's just how it works. So good on you, Sarah. And I look forward to the next one. Then we've got Alan, who's on somewhere in Queensland, Serena, isn't it? Yeah, he's in Serena. Alan's very measured sort of bloke, knows how to handle the big issues, eh? And he comes across quite well. I like to listen to Alan talk, actually. Carries the big issues, presents the big issues really well. Have not yet seen him throw a tantrum, but would love to see it.
Plenty of time yet, mate. Don't worry.
We'll see. We'll see if we can bring it on. And
something to aspire to, Alan.
We'll just sort of rub him up the wrong way a bit, see if we can fire him up.
Just
and then
ask
we've
my
got
wife.
Natalie.
She'll be able to show you. It's all good.
And then we've got Natalie, who's brand new on the show today. So, Natalie, you'll have to introduce yourself. Go for it.
I'm Natalie. I'm Darwin. I've been with TASA journey for over 12 months. Been part of the group, coordinate the committee from the start. Roles keep getting thrown at me, and now I'm the coordinator for the gardenage pillar, so the National Assembly. But prior to all of this, I was didn't get the jab. So a bit before that, a few years prior, I was waking up already. Things weren't making sense. Treatments that we were doing weren't making sense. Even looking at food packets, we've got all these additives that cause disease, but it's being approved. But I wouldn't say anything. I would just keep it to myself, and just things would just pile up, and just things weren't making any sense. Yeah, so I yield.
Thanks, Nat. So I've worked very closely with Natalie, and I've just got to say, Natalie, you'll have to treat me a little differently in this public place than what you normally do. You can't speak to me how you normally do because it wouldn't be right. So if you can just do that. So we're all rebels to a certain degree. Not to a great degree, but yeah. So we're all, for those who don't know what TASA is, it's Terra Australis State Nationals, and we are all reconveyed state nationals. Now, we can't go into that because it would take up the whole hour, but that's what we are. We're reconveyed state nationals. We've all got a pretty good understanding of what's going on in the world and what's going on in this country, and we'd like to see a bit of a change. So we're all doing our own little thing, working away our own little space, trying to create a change. Now, we have got a sort of a. So what are we going to? Will we do the Sarah? Will we do the document first today instead of being almost forgotten and going last?
Yeah, do that.
Okay. So each week we go through one of the documents that you need to fill out to do what we call a 928 reconveyance. And there's a fair bit of paperwork in it. And we just like to explain. We're explaining them once a week, one every week until we run out of documents. So the document today is called the Act of Expatriation and Oath of Allegiance. Who would like to fire up and tell us all about that? Ray, go for it.
My understanding of it, or understanding of it, to keep it very basic, is that you're not expatriating your physical living being. You're expatriating the names, the different forms of names, whether it's capital letters, lowercase, title case. You're bringing those names out, not your physical self, are you?
Yep. That would make sense. Who else would like to give us a bit of an explanation?
Probably just a bit of a side thing to that, mate. I think one of the things that once I grasped it, that name, comprehending the difference between yourself, that you've been called that name all your life when you first come to TASA, and then comprehending the difference between that name not being you, not representing you, that was the main thing. And that this is a clear indication, this document, that brings over those names that you've associated yourself with all your life, and it brings them back to the land and soil. Expatriation, which is what the word is. But that was one I just wanted to say. That's one of the hardest things at the beginning is accepting that knowledge that name was not you, and you're a living being, and you're not that name. So I yield.
Yep, good. Sarah, Sue, have you got anything to add to that?
Thought it might actually be helpful to talk about the meaning of the word expatriate. We hear it often applied when, you hear about the expats, for example, in England, and you might be talking about the Australian expats, or you hear about the English expats in, Tuscany or Italy. And what it actually means, if you look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is to withdraw oneself from residence in or allegiance to one's native country. So that would tie in with what has been said here, is that I've got to stop umming. It's to take your legal names out of the corporation of Australia, and yes, everything is in inverted commas, and to pull you along with your legal and lawful names or appellations back onto the land and soil. So to expatriate basically means to pull out of, to withdraw from.
Yep, very good. Sue Morland, have you got anything to add, or has it all been said?
Everybody has covered it fairly well, and it's such a big learning curve when we start to clearly understand that we aren't the name, and that most of our lives, our name has been used to unknowingly pull us into a different jurisdiction. And whenever the governmental systems or legal systems of our countries, and I use that word knowingly. We'll talk about country in a minute. They're pulling us into jurisdictions that aren't our natural state of being, which is that of the living man or woman of the land, the nation that we were born onto. So probably very quickly, the main names that we want to reclaim is the all caps name that's been set up as a SETA KV trust via the birth certificate. And then following on from that, now that very first all caps name is your whole name, all in all caps, your both of your Christian names, or if you've got more, and your surname. And then there's another version, which is again in all caps, but it's your first Christian name, and then the beginning letter of your second name and third, if you have one, and then your surname in all caps again, and that's called a public transmitting utility. That one firmly declares that you are not a citizen of the all caps Australia. So that renounces all presumed citizenship claims or other political statuses that Corporation of Australia has made in your name. So again, it brings that name, like it's a bit like owning copyright to a corporate name. You're claiming it back under your control, and you're no longer giving power of attorney to the government to use. And then there's another one they create, again in all caps, which is your first name and your surname, without any of the middle names. And that is treated as a ward of the state. And again, it declares that you're not a citizen of Australia and renounces any presumed claims or other statuses that they would like to make against you, the living. So I'll leave it there and I'll yield, but I'll look forward to explaining country, because Sarah said that beautifully, removing our allegiance from a country to another jurisdiction. I yield.
Thanks, Sue. Natalie, have you got anything to add to that, or do you reckon it's all been said? Hang on, I can't hear you. You're muted. You have to unmute. You can stay unmuted. This is casual. You can stay unmuted. I'll mute you if you're in any trouble, but go on.
I think everything's been said.
Nat's internet, it must be really bad out where Natalie is.
Yeah.
Darwin, the internet reception out there.
We can see you, Nat, but we didn't get any of that.
But if you could lip read, Wayne, she said it's all been said.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't lip read, but that's something I'll work on. So if you're watching this, why do we need to repatriate our name? Well, we didn't actually willingly give it away. There was a thing called the birth certificate fraud, and it still goes on to this day, where your name, it's identity theft. It was stolen. It's been used all over the world in various different ways. And what you have to remember is that you are a living man or woman. You have blood coursing through your veins. You have a heart and a soul, and we can create things. But the name that was stolen becomes a legal fiction, and it's used in the world of commerce, and it's used in a bad way. So what we do when we repatriate those names, we bring all those names, and they're the names you see, those window-faced envelopes, the one with the little window in them, and they come at you often. There'll be the names in there mainly. They'll be the ones. So we repatriate those, and then they're not supposed to use them again. I've got a sneaky suspicion that they still do, but that will change over time. So there you go. I think that's a full explanation. Righto. Now, what will we go on to now? Natalie, we brought you on here because you've got a very good idea. You've had good ideas about what should happen in assemblies, and you didn't just leave them as ideas. You waited for me to go on holidays, and then you put them into practice, and good on you, and good on you. And you've actually got people taking part in the meetings more than what they were. A lot of the time it's like I'm a coordinator on Darwin. A lot of the time I get up there and do a bit of talking, and it kind of becomes the expectation. So Natalie's changed all that. I now take a back seat for all but about 5 minutes while they do other stuff. Do you want to give us a bit of a explanation, Nat, of what you actually put in place and why it works?
Well, yeah. So Wayne went away on holidays, and I thought we've been at this for 12 months. I call it pussyfooting around. You know, nothing's really happening at our assemblies other than we come together. Wayne gives a monthly update. We get the treasurer report, the land recording officer report, and then we'll go into some other, mundane information. But there's nothing happening hands-on building our assembly. It's like as if we're waiting for National to do it for us. So I thought, because there was another group that had stood their assembly, so that got me thinking, well, if they can do it, so can we. So then I had in my head that, okay, well, if we find out what everyone knows in the sense of what we want in these different pillars, we can start to work with something. So basically the first session we had when Wayne was away, I got everyone into groups. There was 3 groups. I had brown paper on tables, texters, one particular colour texter per group, and each table had a different task. So one task was write down all the positions that you think is needed in the General Assembly, in the Gardenage Assembly, and then another group was what things in the NT do you want to change for better or worse? Well, take away things or bring things in. So we got a whole list of that. I put it into spreadsheet format, and then the next week Wayne was back, and so he sort of was a bit of a fly on a wall watching. So that week we did the dual assembly, and then anything like all the different GovCo companies there are, like the ATO and the AEC and et cetera. And then another table was just those that didn't make it to the previous week could go through and add anything extra. And once again, everyone's in different coloured textures. So we went through that, and then my plan was the following meeting would be we went through the dual assembly. So we went through that and worked out what roles we think we needed out of what we'd written down. And so I'm still yet to catch up with that following meeting. So I will do the same thing for the next 2 assemblies, the Gardenage and the General. And then from there, I will ask people, what assembly interests you? And then I will say this is a table for general, gardenage and rural, and these three now become work groups. And then with that in mind, then I'll get them to listen to some assembly required, notes, and then with that information, we can try and work out really what positions we need, and then obviously work out what positions are needed to stand the assembly and deal with those ones first before dealing with all the other ones. And then obviously get together, write documents, and then have them critiqued amongst our assembly, and then obviously get them voted on, or whatever that looks like. I'm not sure whether they'll go national to see whether other local assemblies want to use them. But yeah, so that's my plan. Whether it works is another thing. But yeah, I'm doing very similar with the gardenage pillar. So at the moment we're going through all the some assembly required, taking notes, and then I think it's the 12th of April. We're going to have a weekend, or a Saturday or a Sunday, whichever day that is. And we're going to go through all our notes that we've taken and work out what roles that we need in what jurisdiction, because that's another whole kettle of fish. Yeah, so I'm trying to make things move along. It just feels very stagnant. So yeah, I yield.
Very good. Anyone got any questions for Nat about all of that?
All I'll say is hang in there, Natalie. Things do go stagnant. Yeah, so well done. Good luck. You'll get there.
Yep.
Thank you.
And for anybody who thinks I should have my nose out of joint, I'm actually the beneficiary on there, get to do a lot less. Everybody's way more involved. And Natalie didn't, it's not about me. I'm just there to make sure shit happens. It's not about me. It's about the assembly. So well done, Nat. What you've done appears to be working, and I would recommend it doesn't have to be the same structure, but the more, if you're a coordinator, the more that you can get your people involved and talking and thinking, the better it is, because when you just stand up in front of them and talk, that becomes the expectation, and then they hear the news, have a beer and go home, and nothing happens. So yeah. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
So that's really good what you're doing up there, Natalie. And what I'm like always contemplating down here is, how do you get people to have the confidence to stepping into the role of doing something? And I know that when people first come in, they're in the learning phase. They don't want to say anything because they feel like this is a whole new area of knowledge that they may not know anything about. They don't even know what they don't know. So they become, well, like beginners. They think, well, I won't act because I'm not sure of what I'm doing. And I think one of the skills that I'd like to see people learn to do is just letter writing, because that seems to be the main avenue. The pen is mightier than the sword, and TASA being a peaceful movement of just us asserting our rights of who we actually are. So have you been able to have any good teaching around people writing letters or notices to the government? Has anybody stepped into that field yet? Or do you have any people who are already skilled in that area?
Well, last year I did some sessions because we had someone, there was two people that stood up and said, sort of had a go at myself, and a bit of Wayne was there, and I don't know if Sarah was there. And we sort of took it on board, and things were, they weren't they were wondering why they were turning up to our meetings. They weren't going home with anything, extra knowledge or anything. So I said, right, well, so this month we're going to do something on removing your name from the electoral roll. And we did one on smart meters, writing. So, and then there was council as well. But there was no actual letter writing as such. So, but trying to, like I came with all the forms for people to fill out to take themselves off the electoral roll. It's a form that's on their website. You fill it in, send it off. You get 2 letters back from them. And, as far as I'm aware, I'm not on the electoral roll anymore. The smart meters, I'd written letters. It was something that I wanted to do. So I brought it to the table. There were some people, well, I've got a solar battery on, so I've got to have a smart meter. And so, but people weren't, and then we were also saying when we had this bit of a blow up or whatever you want to call it, was that you come back to us with ideas on what you want to do or what you want to see in these meetings. And it's over 6 months now, and we still have not seen anything in regards to what they want to see in these meetings. So letter writing as such, like I do have letters that I've written, but I won't give it just to anyone until, unless like they know they've really got to understand the document. So the one that I have handed out once was one on, I wrote a letter to the bank because my envelope was all in capitals. So I wrote them a letter saying that this was not in English. And they're still trying to contact me, but but to write letters, what is it, Wayne, what you were doing with the council? What was those letters called?
Yeah, I've done a bit of letter writing. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Matt.
That's all right. I'm just trying to think. The like you get a bill and it's something that's like you want to object to, so you write a letter or conditional acceptance letter. So so I've not done any of those. I've done one which was in relation to the smart meter, but other than that, there hasn't been actually like a big group effort to write any of those. Wayne did show us his that he did for the council, the council issue, but other than that, that's all. I yield.
What sort of letter writing did you have in mind, Sue? Was that like notices to GovCo or just being able to respond to any of those utilities in writing?
Well, it's probably the correct format of responses, because I find that like when you're trying to learn how to correctly rebut, you'll get some sort of a presentment or notice from whoever, and they're nearly always assuming things about you, that you are a resident or that you are a debtor or that you are a customer, or that, like they've got all these personage labels that they attach to you. But then there's one school of thought that will go a conditional acceptance to stay in honour, and that's very much following the rules of commerce, which can be very successful when you understand the rules. But as far as we're concerned, in TASA, we've virtually said we don't want to have anything to do with your commercial world. So it's effectively, how do we effectively rebut those assumptions? And has anybody got any links to anybody that has taught them how to write these letters successfully and with the desired outcome? Or is it just a continual notice of rebutting what they say? Say, sorry, you're addressing me as this, and unless you have proof that I am that, I'm not quite sure how you came to that assumption. Because otherwise, if you don't rebut or deny, then they can assume that you agree with that assumption. And then there's other people who are learning to write letters like from the common law mindset, where they're literally pulling them back into line once they've realized which of their own laws they're breaking. Because that's one of the things we know, is that they frequently step outside the guidelines of the contracts that are supposed to bind them. And that can be effective, because that is us saying, hey, these are the rules of your contract, and we can see you've stepped out of them. So it's got nothing to do with us. It's not actually about us. We're not bringing ourselves into the conversation. We're saying, you've got a contract here and you've broken it. So, you better fix that before you address me again. But I'm just wondering who to learn off. If anybody had any good ideas of someone who teaches that process in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I don't know. So you're talking about rebut the presumption there, and that was what's the New Zealand fella?
Bill Turner.
Bill Turner. Bill Turner. He had some good stuff. He's got a website there somewhere, but I don't know where else you go. And like, I've done a bit of that letter writing, but it seems to become never ending. So you come home from work and think, I better write that other letter, and then tomorrow I better write that other one. And I'm not sure that it leads anywhere, but maybe it's better than doing nothing. Like you say, you rebut the presumption, and what you're saying is you're dealing with the wrong person, the wrong individual. But,
I agree. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we have to write letters to them and advise our position. One of the things I believe is that, firstly, they don't read them after the first one. So with council, they sent me a letter back saying, we can tell you've got a different belief to us. So just to let you know, you can believe whatever you like, but moving forward, we can do this, that, and the other. So after that, I don't think they read any of our letters. However, what I think they do read is once we advise them that we're not in their jurisdiction and that they're operating fraudulently, then every time they interact with us, we show them our fee schedule and then invoice them, bill them, or whatever it is, and have that debt on their system. That I believe they read, and then that will add up. So every time they interact with us, they're going to get another bill, because according to the fee schedule, if I've got an open envelope, it's whatever the figure is. So I think that's where the power is. And they're not going to pay anything probably, but at the end of the day, then that whether there's a lien then against the individual, the CEO or whatever, I don't know. That's just my two bolts worth. But letters, you got to do it, but I don't think they really care about what's in them too much. I yield.
Actually, it's funny you should say that, because I've written so many, well, Eric, my husband, and myself have written so many letters that they've just recently sent us. You probably can't see that. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to postal
I keep telling
address
them
or
they're not
contact.
addressing us correctly. So it's a change of postal address or contact details, one for each of us. But like, you get stuck at field number 1, full name required. And I think, well, I can't write that. Date of birth, no, not happening. Residential address. So it's going to go back blank with a letter saying, I literally can't fill this in. You obviously haven't read anything I've sent you.
Mm.
Anyway, if I
If
filled it
I
in, I'd be putting myself back in there.
if I may, there is on. I can share the screen if you like, and go and show people. There's um, there's a mob in Australia called the Australian League of Rights, and they have an extremely comprehensive library of documents and books and videos and everything else. And there's a guy, he was a politician back in the day I think in Victoria or on Victoria. And there's a book he's written, How to Get What You Want. And he's also written um, a document on letters. And he said, if you're going to write a letter, same as what we've just said, letters really, they don't take a lot of notice of them. But if you're going to write one, you need to make it very short and very sweet. But he talks about the strategies that we need to use and tactics to get noticed. So if anyone is interested, I can just briefly share the screen if you like, Wayne.
Can you share it?
I can. I should. Oh, hang on. No, it's not turned on. Hold on. I'll send a
You've
request.
Well, while you're doing that, can I just make a quick comment? And
Yep.
for those people who are watching this too, when we are writing them, we're actually writing notices, not letters.
Yes.
That's what we
Correct.
need to make people aware of. Yeah,
Yeah. Is it good, Wayne?
Yeah, it should be good to go.
Okay.
What you said, Alan, was quite true too. I think if you attach the fee schedule and send them a bill, it's now become personal for that individual, and I think that helps to get results.
Right. So it's CHRESBY. The man's name was Arthur Cresby, and it takes you to this. And here is the book, How to Get What You Want. Elements of Organisation, Strategy and Tactics. It's not very long. It's only 24 pages. And as you can see, the first 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages don't have a lot on them. So 19 pages. And there I am umming again. So this is basically, and it says there, this is a transcription of a tape recording. So it's going to be very easy to read because it will be written as the guy spoke. But I've found it quite good, and I think we need to remember. I'm going to stop sharing. I'll leave the title here so that you can have a look at it. And
Just
then
had a thought, Sarah. Can you just see if there's any copyright attached to that book?
I
Might
don't
get me-
think there would be, Sue, would there?
No,
Because League of Rights are pretty good about all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the League, they are very good about that. TASA actually have 2 of their videos already up on their website, which they really should contact Arnie about and make sure he knows they're there, which they won't mind, but they do have copyright on those videos. One is an Ed Butler video, and the other one is the Jeremy Lee video.
Oh, yeah.
So one's the Planned Surrender of Australia, and the other one is, what's it called? I can't remember, but it was the very first video I watched, and I watched that and I was hooked. I thought, TASA know what they're talking about. What else have they got? So, and there's a lot in that website about the correct way. They call it civics, which of course we will all have a reaction to, but the correct way for the people of a nation to interact with their politicians to get what we want, exactly like that book says. The biggest problem we have is we never put our voice forward. We don't even tell them what we want, so they can put forward whatever they like.
And that comes back to the whole, so firstly, what I'd say with writing notices, read Anna's stuff. Anna writes great notices, and you'll notice she doesn't use legalese. She doesn't use all of the legal terms. She talks in her writing. She talks as though she's talking. She says, "Don't do it. This is wrong. You know, we forbid you to do such and such. The American people don't approve. Stop it. Stop it now." She's very blunt. And I think that's something that we need to remember. The second part of all of this is the fact that it is very hard for people to get out of the mindset. As much as people want to self-govern, there's this kind of, we've been trained to think that someone else will do it. Okay, so when we have these assemblies, the actual idea, and I've shared the story with one or two people before, and Sue and I were trying to figure out back in the day. So Sue and I, for those of you that don't know, we were some of the earlier members to TASA about 3-4 years ago. And we were trying to figure out how a document should look. We didn't like the way it was worded. There was something a bit hinky about it. And we weren't sure of the process, and we couldn't get an answer. Mookie and Judgy were busy. We couldn't find anyone else to help. And Sue turned around to me and she said, "You know what, Sarah, we're self-governing. We've said that our definitions stand. So let's just self-govern and make up our minds and just go from there." And that's pretty much what you have to do. If you're not sure of something in an assembly, or, whether it's a small assembly or a committee that you're on or something like that, if you're not sure, and I said the same to the Guardianage Committee the other night, they were saying, "Well, what do you want us to do?" And it's like, you guys are the people that will be making the recommendations to the rest of the assembly. You guys have the authority. You don't need to look externally for authority. And I think a lot of us out there in assemblies now, we know that what is over there is bad. We want to move away from that. But it's not like there's another body of people to move to. We're the body of people that we're moving to. It's like we are the change we want to see. So we have to make up the rules. We have to do the deciding. We have to be the ones to govern. And that means that we've got to have the discipline to show up. One of the maxims that Anna said way back in the day was that, you need to put, did she say an hour a day or an hour a week, Sue? It was an hour a day, wasn't it? An hour a day to study, not just TASA, but to study the birth certificate fraud, to study jurisdictional issues. And jurisdiction's massive. If you are new to TASA, understanding jurisdictions or comprehending jurisdictions is going to help you enormously. That was the one thing that, until I wrapped my head around jurisdictional difference, that really slowed me down. So I would say that that's one of the most important things that you can learn. Studying our own history in this country or on this country, studying world history. All of these things are really, really beneficial, and there is a plethora of resources out there on the Terra Australis website, both of them, certainly on the Telegram channels, the welcome chat, online resources there. There are people all over the place that have got massive amounts of information. Ray is one of those individuals. Richard Lobwin's another one that springs to mind that's got huge amounts of information. But we need to have the self-discipline to go, okay, if I'm going to learn how to govern myself, I need to learn all of this stuff so that I can govern not only myself, but help out in my community and be a contributing member of the community. And so that I understand that I'm not just here. There's always that energy equation. I can't just sit here and expect everything to be done for me. I have to actually put in some hours to do stuff as well. And, as Sue says, we're going to be governed by someone. We're either going to be governed by God's law or man's law. And if we're going to be governed by man's law, then we've been there and done that. And if we're going to be governed by God's law, then we're going to have to be part of the group that decides how God's law works in the day-to-day that we live in. So I think part of the stagnation that we've talked about, or the slowness of assemblies, is not necessarily that people don't want to do stuff. I think it's more that they don't know how. And we've kind of been trained that in the past, when we've had good ideas, or when we've suggested, or when we've said to council, hey, we don't want you to do this, we've been told, no, go away, sit down, shut up, we'll do it. Thanks. Let the big people handle it. Well, that's not the way we're doing it anymore. So we have to change our thinking. I yield.
You're so right. We have been trained, and very well trained in a lot of cases. And an hour a day is probably a good start. And you at least, at the very least, like, you don't have to know everything. But at the very least, you should learn how we got where we are. Then you will be cranky enough to do something about it. Ray, did you have something to say?
Yeah, just very quickly, a few things. When Sarah mentioned about the man's rule, well, we did have a direct government from heaven until God got annoyed with humans. So he said, okay, they want to govern themselves. So he gave them Saul. And, Saul was the first government. Since then, it's been a battle. Where we are now, though, it's interesting. I still feel, this is me, my belief. They will listen to us when we have an assembly. Because at the moment, they're running roughshod over us saying, yeah, well, there is no common law on this country. It wasn't brought here. You're operating as one of us, so we're going to administer your estate for you. They won't ignore us when we actually have lawful government, because theirs is a quasi system. So that's why they're doing all of that. When we have ours lawfully established, I still believe that's the key to get them to listen to us. Yeah. What else was going to say? Yeah. Sarah, are you aware that Callan is free?
No.
All right. Okay. I thought so. For
We need
those
to
of
have
you
we
who,
need to have a session with all of the jailbirds on here.
yeah. For those who don't, sorry guys, I'm just going to go very quickly. That what happened was he had phoned me in the morning one day during the week. He said that he tried not to answer to the name in his court case, and so they put the court case back to the late afternoon. So he phoned me in the meantime while I was outside pruning the tomatoes, and asked, and then I said, look, you're at court. Do you want me to get that legal aid guy, James Woodford, to call you? He gave me permission to do that. When I called the lawyer, he happened to be in the court on another case. He'd just finished, and he said,
Oh.
I'm just going to go down to the room to see the prosecutor. So to cut a long story short, they organized a plea deal. Callan had to plead guilty, even though he's not guilty, especially with a lot of those charges. And he got up for immediate release. And then he got off the phone and said to me, I'm going to pack and see if I said, yeah, you might be able to get out now, because the prison doesn't shut admin for another hour. So go for it. And Albert was able to be free to drive and pick him up physically.
Right.
And we've got the footage of him actually being released. And then Callan sent me, it was yesterday in the morning, back on his old mobile phone like the old days. I got a message from him. He started up the tractor. It's still working, and he's back on the farm where he belongs. And we're going to, a small group of us are going to have lunch with him tomorrow in the city. I yield.
That's awesome.
It is
That's
awesome.
really, really good. Callan's
You
probably
did.
been, oh, longer than Nathan.
But I am going to have to
Yeah.
slap him out because he's still got it in his mind. Oh, I shouldn't have done. I said, no, you've done nothing wrong. You're up against a system that has bigger teeth. I could put you at the beach next to a shark. No one in their right mind is going to expect you to defeat the shark. I said, when you're back out from here, you've got access to your PC, you've got access to, all the tools that you need. You can have another go at him. Join the assembly, which of course he's going to do, and he's going to be
Yeah.
back on our webinar next Tuesday.
Mm.
So that's the way you hold them accountable.
Mm.
You're going to get another bite at the cherry, so none of this talk,
Yeah.
I yield.
I think
Very good.
you're right. I think we do have to have an assembly, but I think, yeah, the whole assembly structure, that's another whole bag of worms, which I'm not even going to open today. But I do think it's important that people start attending their local assembly so that they can get the feel for what it's like to take part in a group discussion and disagree with people and hash ideas out and to be respectful whilst you might not agree. I think that's
Did
a
you
big
just
part
say that?
of, I did. And to when people lose their temper and drop their bundle and yell and shout, the grace to forgive them and
That's
to
exactly
beg for forgiveness.
I agree. I agree.
I've said to Ben, for those that don't know, Ben Gardner on on Victoria, he's my brother, and we've had a few, we've headbutted a couple of times over things, and I've said, building a completely new system, new to this country, completely new system from the ground up with a whole lot of people who really don't know what they don't know, without having people sometimes lose their temper because they get passionate, and without, thumping the table, and without really coming, almost to blows sometimes, I said, that's going to be a monumental task because people get passionate about stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to disagree, and sometimes it's going to get a bit messy and it's going to get heated, and people will go in and they'll battle and then they'll withdraw, and then everyone will lick their wounds, and then they might come back again. And we all of us have to have the grace to be able to say, yep, okay, come back in, or is it okay if I come back in? And, ask for
And-
forgiveness,
and you
apologize, grant the forgiveness.
You shouldn't just go away either. Maybe you're right. Maybe you should rethink it and put that out there again. Have another crack, because we've all got to add our bit. I think it's like, and we've got no instructions. It's like we found a piece of paper out in the bush, and it was America writing a note to us, and they said, "Well, this is what we did 300 years ago. Good luck." That's all the information we got.
Yep. Have a crack. You'll be right.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I love the way Sarah says, it's going to get messy, isn't it? I'm waiting for people to throw things at me or write me abusive letters. Whenever I get to where it's going to be Telegram or whether it's going to be Delta chat, whatever. I'll just throw a teaser out there. Who believes that we've got the jury system, 12 people on a jury and all of that, it's based on British law? Who believes that? No. Where does that come from?
Islam.
Sharia law. Yeah, I won't pronounce it as Sharia because I'm a native speaker of the language, so I like to do it properly, like not Sheikh, it's Sheikh, not Sharia, it's Sharia. Yes, remember I told you the key is without understanding Islam, right, you will not understand the modern world. And that's done deliberately, of course, so that it's always the least place you look at. So, for example, the Ten Commandments, the jury system with witnesses, pick 12 people, they were all male in those days, by the way, right? All of that that is actually based on Sharia law. That's another concept that the modern West pinched from the Islamic world, whitewash it, make it look indigenous to their civilization, right? Granted, most of the legal stuff comes from Roman administrative law. Because if you look throughout history, the Roman Empire invented the least amount of things in history. And that is deliberate because they were focusing on admin and law and running things. So that's one thing. Very quickly, let me show you this, and don't throw things at me, please.
Please don't get us copyrighted again.
Can you see that?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the world map that the colonizers in Europe pinched from the Islamic world, but the Islamic world gratefully gave it to them because they thought they're dealing with people that are interested in scholarship like them. Had they known what they were going to use the map for, a la Christopher Columbus and all this colonization, would they have given them the map that first time? I yield.
Interesting.
It is interesting, especially I think it'll be interesting to see what comes over the next few months with what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, because as we know, don't get us copyrighted, Ray.
There's another, that is a robot. With the Arabic writing on the right, this is, I think it's Al-Jazari. He invented this robot to serve drinks when people come over. It's one of the early robotics things. No, it was not alcohol that they were serving.
Okay.
It was another liquid, but that is
Just grape juice.
a robot from the book that, of course, you won't see all of this, but they exist in museums. Can you see that?
See the drawings down the bottom.
Yeah.
Can you see this one that says Machometi Arasenfis?
We can't read the writing on there, so it might say that.
If I've got the right screen, maybe I had the wrong screen there. This one here. You see that?
Hang on.
Nothing. Oh, I can see some writing, but I can't read it.
Can you see Machometi Arasenfis in the center? All right, that is the Latinized name of the Islamic scholar that came up with the with astronomy. That is Copernicus's reference to this Islamic scholar, indicating where he got his knowledge from. And that began the heliocentric model of the universe, where is it the Earth that revolves around the sun or the sun around the Earth? Keep in mind, in the Western tradition, religion and science were at loggerheads, and the church went to war with them. Not in the Islamic world. The religion and the scientists worked in very good harmony. So, yeah, that's not a part of their tradition. So
who
that's
came
where it came from.
Who came before Islam then?
Well, Islam came in the 7th century, but what I'm saying is that like a lot of the models that we have come from this era, because don't forget, when Islam came, they inherited the tradition of the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Greeks, and the Romans. And what they did is, because they were diverse, they were the first to synthesize all the knowledge of the known world in the translation movement, which I'll go into in my videos, in the translation movement. And then they took those, they corrected certain things, reinterpreted, innovated on top of that. And then when the modern Europe came in during the Enlightenment and after that, because don't forget, they got more brutal after the Enlightenment with their colonization. This is where people misunderstand. And what they did was they took all of that but whitewashed where it came from. So you'll see references from Isaac Newton, Galileo, all of these. They reference scholars that went before them, but we don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to. I told you at the start that Ray was a frustrated historian, and I don't want to pull you up, Ray, but we are getting along there.
Totally understand.
time-wise, and we have
We
to
need to-
still have
We need to
word-
talk about what a country is.
Yeah, and we haven't got
the word of the
Sarah's
day.
update on Anna yet. So
No, we haven't.
Okay. Who wants to start? The word of the day is country, as opposed to a nation.
Very quickly, a country is a physical region with borders, whereas a nation will involve language and culture and identity. I yield.
Pretty good.
Yeah, close.
I've got a pretty interesting definition here.
Go for it.
Okay, mid-13th century. Any geographic area, sometimes with implications of political organisation, from the Old French, country or countried, and then in inverted commas, region, district, country. Means land lying opposite or land spread before one. And again, it means opposite or against. The native word for for country is land. Now, if you go into it deeper, countries are political organisations, polities, divided into districts. Now, the problem with that is a district is, I'll bring district up. If I can find it. A district, a territory under the jurisdiction of a lord or officer. From the medieval Latin districtus, the restraining of offenders' jurisdiction. And then under the feudal system, an area of jurisdiction or district within which the lord may take and withhold personal property, that's to distrain, for legal reasons. It is the noun use of the past participle of the Latin distringere, to draw apart or to hinder. So you don't really want to be in an offender's jurisdiction if you claim to be in a district, and the country itself is another fictitious entity. It's a polity. So it's, again, only exists in the minds of men. No other animal will agree with you. They'll fly over borders without passports, and so just worth keeping in mind for the jurisdictional questions we have to ask ourselves.
So, can I summarize what you said in one word and tell me if it's accurate?
Sure.
Feudalism.
Yeah. Sounds right to me. I think you and Anna should be put together on a podcast one day. Actually, I think you guys would have a fantastic
Oh no. She might not know certain things as well. With all due respect to her, because she's great. Love her to bits. But no one's gonna know everything. The system, like I said last week, the system that Wayne edited that bit out, of course. The system we had, right? The system that we overthrew, the Ottoman Empire, was the last bastion that had property rights. Sovereignty rests in the creator, all of that. Yeah, we eliminated it over what they told us it all was. And now we brought in the system that we fear most. You can't make this up. That's what I mean. Like Steven Spielberg could not make up this kind of script.
There is so much stuff out there that I know about that you can't make up.
Can I quickly show you my library? About 2% of it.
Okay, that's enough. You'll get us copyrighted. Put it down.
If I've got to edit this
Get rid of
video
it.
again.
That's written by a guy that lives 20 minutes from me.
This is banned.
He wrote it in 1977.
Hey, I'm not even joking.
He's a Western Australis guy.
My God. If I have to spend 20 minutes or 20 hours editing this, Raymond.
No. This is not going to get us copyrighted because there's no voice.
I hope you're right.
There's no voice. And if there is copyright, I won't come on any more podcasts. I'll drive down to the YouTube office, the local one, and smash out the clerk. Then Callum can come visit me.
We're just just go back to country for a minute.
What's a nation then?
Well, a nation is actually the people.
Yeah.
You see, there's a relationship between nation and country that the nation is the principal in the deal, the owner of authority, and the country is the agent, the service provider using that authority. Sue's nodding her head. That makes me feel better. If the nation is active, the people hold power. If the nation is passive, the country holds power. So all you passive people, get off your bums. Authority comes from the people, standing comes from acting as the people, and power sits wherever that authority is actively exercised. So it's nowhere near what I thought country was.
So the nation of, hang on, the nation of Terra Australisans is living on the land and soil of Terra Australis, which is currently administered by the country of Australia.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Wow.
a nation is a group of people bound by shared identity, shared culture, language, history, or ancestry, a shared sense of belonging or identity. So, and you can have a nation may not have a country. They may not have any territory. They might be nationless. The Aboriginal Australians are, in fact, many nations. They're known as nations, each individual, what I used to call, I thought it was a tribe, and I was searching for the right direction. I was told by a little short fellow about that high that they're nations. So a country can exist without a single unified nation, like multicultural states. A nation can exist without a country, stateless. When both aligned, you get a nation state, and they give Japan as the reference there. Then we've got that inversion problem where the country's at the top and the nation is at the bottom.
So
interesting. So that was a very good choice of a word for the day. I thought it was slightly innocuous when I first looked at it, but
and I don't mean to throw a spanner in the works, but I've seen this firsthand. These horrible people make up the rules as they go along. I saw that whenever I asked them questions, as in Callan's situation, they chop and change like nobody's business. That's why, once again, I'm going to say it, my belief only, we've got to hold them accountable by getting our assembly up and running double quick. I yield.
Well, they've never been held accountable.
Well,
yes, Natalie agrees on you.
Natalie
agree with that.
I think a lot of people agree with you, but I do think that, and this is probably not the forum for this particular conversation, we're having meetings over the next couple of weeks after Easter, I think, to discuss the different variations.
14, 21, 28.
Different proposals being put forward. Is there room for us to have an interim governing body, such as like what they've got in America? They had the Federation for 20, 30 years before they had any assemblies standing. Could we have an interim assembly just to, with representation from each of the states for 2 years? And then through that, we would figure out what we need, what we don't need, and it gives everyone else time to kind of, okay, go, let's work out the best way. Is that another option? Sorry to throw another spanner in the works.
It certainly does need to hit the table, Sarah. All the more reason for you to attend those meetings, I would think.
Yeah, okay. I know. I'm being told that my holiday is over, so okay.
Oh, I don't know. You can go back on holidays once we thrash that out.
Oh, right. So
I'm not sure
Like,
how that would work, but if it does work, it's a good idea. But my understanding is that we would need an election.
you could elect two people from each state. Each state could elect two people to represent them.
It's
No,
an interim body,
yeah, it's just
which
an interim
means that it
government.
is a temporary beginning
Yeah.
until it's not properly seated until you have proper elections. But you could have an interim body.
Okay.
Please bring this up again, Sarah. Please find a way where we can thrash this idea out because it is good.
So everyone can yell at me again. Okay.
I promise I won't.
No, you
And
did.
it's nothing compared to what they'll yell at me if they're crazy enough to go into my research. Very.
We will get to your research. For those of you that would like to hear more about Ray's research, please let us know because we will put together, if there's enough interest, we will put, in fact, we're going to do it anyway, but let us know, seagull4451@outlook.com. Please send an email to say, yes, you'd be interested in hearing more from Ray's historical references. And any other suggestions for the show? We did have some suggestion from the first show about getting on other guests from external, external to TASA, which certainly is something we'd consider in the future. Just give us a little while to kind of get this organised. This is still in the throes of forming, so we're still working out how we're going to do things. But again, seagull4451@outlook.com until the show gets its own email address. And lastly, unless anyone else has got anything to say, I will wrap up by delivering what Anna talked about this, which I know Alan
Your
waits
part
on.
of the show, Alan, this bit.
Yeah, it's the only part that he really wants to hear.
I've been waiting the whole time for this. Just to get it summarised. I love it when it's summarised so nicely.
I told you we'd never do it early in the show because you'll just leave.
So Anna hasn't written much this week. I don't know why. She's only been travelling interstate, trying to sleep, visiting sick relatives. So it's, honestly, she's written 3 notices and they are all, I would think, somewhat of a personal nature, to a friend of hers regarding a mutual friend of theirs. And this has obviously been a long story played out over decades. But basically, the things that I've pulled out of it that are applicable to all of us is no matter what the situation, don't assume the worst and always try and figure out all aspects of what's going on. There's always more than one side to any story. Sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 different points of view. Also, we need to consider how far some people will sacrifice themselves to keep other people safe and well, and whether that sacrifice is worth it if it's going to hurt them in the long run. How much agency we have in our own lives, and at what point do we decide to take a different pathway, and how do we do that?
You'll have to read that one, Alan. I know what she's talking about because I took the time to read it.
It's an interesting story. And if it wasn't Anna, I'd actually, that's not true. The more I've learned over the last 5 years, I find the less I am shocked by things, but there are some things that still have the power to surprise me.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that someone would be asked to do this and someone would agree. And
Anna even said she broke down in tears.
How you change your life when you have become so enmeshed in something. I'd encourage everyone to read it if you've got the time. It's the last 3 that she's written about Uriah. It's not sad. It's not horrible. It's not gory. There's nothing like that in it. Well, it is a little bit sad. Yeah. So it wasn't anything sort of rousing to the troops or anything. It was more a story, I think, of love and loss and how to pick up and move on back into love.
Yeah.
So it's not really bouncy. I'm very sorry, everyone. However, so yes, that's where we're at. And if people have suggestions, we will be getting other guests on. Thank you very much, Natalie, for coming on and giving us some inspiration with what you've done with your assembly. We're going to try and get some other people on who've done other things. And just briefly, we're looking at having a few more hosts on the show so that it's not the same people all the time and the same voices. We really want this to rotate through different voices and different opinions to represent fully what TASA is. Different voices, different people, different opinions, different ways of doing things. So keep tuned, and that's it from me.
Yep. And what Sarah really means is we want more hosts in case we piss someone off and they won't come back.
Very quickly, I want to say thanks, Natalie, for coming. It's nice to see you, and thanks everybody else. And Wayne.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for turning up. Thank you, Natalie, for being our special guest today and sharing your knowledge. And thank you, you regulars, and hopefully we'll see you all again next Saturday with a nice little agenda and a chat.
Have a nice week.
See ya.
Cheers later. Bye.
Bye.